a newly arrived immigrant with no documents, no friends, and no money. He washed dishes in secret in the silent early mornings of a restaurant in New York. He thought no one would ever find him. But one night, the owner showed up early. And what? He did. No one expected. Miguel was 28 when he arrived in the United States with a heart full of hope and pockets practically empty. He was just one of thousands of immigrants who crossed the border with nothing but courage and a dream. He left behind his mother, 2 young brothers, and a past marked by poverty and violence in El Salvador. He told them he would be back in a year rich with a decent job and that he would get them all out of that life. But the America he found was not made of promises. It was made of closed doors, suspicious looks, and impossible demands. Without documents, Miguel couldn't even rent a decent room. He slept in overcrowded hostels where the cold of the night was less cruel than the weight of anonymity. During the day, he knocked on doors, offering his strong arms and tireless energy. No one would take him. Sometimes he earned a few bucks helping people move or cleaning yards, but it was rare. And every penny was carefully saved to send to his family or to keep him from starving the following weekend. It was on one of those nights that he passed by the back door of an Italian restaurant in Brooklyn. It was almost midnight. The kitchen, lights were off, but there were still dishes piled on the counters. The floor was dirty with sauce and a pot that seemed to have been forgotten on the stove. Miguel stopped. He watched. Something about that scene caught his attention. He didn't know what it was. Maybe it was the silent chaos. Maybe it was the memory of the lunches his mother used to make with similar pots. Or maybe it was the simple fact that that kitchen, even dirty, seemed more welcoming than the shelter where he slept. He returned the following night. He watched again. And after a few days, he noticed a pattern. The employees all left at 11 p.m. The back door was sometimes left ajar. The restaurant had no security. There were no cameras in the back either. That's when a bold idea popped into his head. What if I just went in and washed the dishes? The first time, Miguel was terrified. His heart was beating so hard he could barely breathe. He entered with extreme caution, almost in slow motion. And he began. He washed everything, he dried everything, he swept the floor. He organized the shelves. He left the kitchen looking brand new. He left before sunrise without leaving a trace. The next day, he returned and did the same. He repeated the ritual for 7 nights in a row, without being noticed, without stealing anything, without asking for anything, just to prove to himself and to anyone he might encounter that he was still useful, that he still had value. It was a mixture of desperation and dignity, fear mixed with faith. Every time he entered that restaurant was a risk. Being discovered meant prison, deportation, or at the very least, humiliation. But he kept going. Because washing dishes at midnight hidden away was better than spending another day feeling useless. He just wanted a chance. He just needed someone to notice. And on that 8th night, someone did. On the 8th night, Miguel repeated the ritual, as usual. He waited for everyone to leave. He looked around. The street was empty. The wind cut his face, and the silence of the early morning was his only accomplice. The back door was still ajar, as if fate were inviting him to enter once more. Inside, the scene was familiar. Piles of dishes, greasy, pots, sticky floors. He took a deep breath, put on his gloves, and began. He washed each dish with care, as if he were cleaning his own dignity. With each movement, he felt he was building something. Maybe not a salary, maybe not even a job, but he was building respect, or at least trying to. What he didn't know was that that night, the restaurant owner, Mr. Lorenzo, had forgotten his wallet in his office. He was a detail-oriented man, a hot-blooded Italian who had built that restaurant brick by brick with the sweat of his own brow. So when he returned at almost 1 in the morning and saw a light on in the kitchen, he was on alert. He entered slowly, silently, and there was Miguel, bent over the sink, his arms soaked and his t-shirt stuck to his body with sweat. He didn't even hear the door open. When Lorenzo cleared his throat loudly, Miguel froze. The plate he was holding almost fell. He turned slowly, his eyes wide, his face a mixture of guilt, fear, and despair. "Who are you?" Lorenzo asked in a firm tone, but without shouting. Miguel stammered. He tried to explain himself in broken English. I just clean. I don't steal. I just help." For a second that seemed like an eternity. Lorenzo was silent. He observed the details, the stacked plates, everything clean, the shiny pots, the spotless floor. This wasn't vandalism. It was care. It was dedication. It was something he didn't even see in his own paid employees. "How long have you been doing this?" Lorenzo asked. Miguel lowered his eyes. 8 nights, he muttered, ashamed. Lorenzo took a step forward, then another. He stopped in front of Miguel and said, "Do you want a job?" The question seemed like a trap. Miguel blinked several times. He didn't know if it was true or sarcasm. But Lorenzo's expression was serious, and his eyes, kind. Miguel swallowed hard. "Yes, sir," he replied with a trembling voice. "Then come tomorrow, at 9, up front, like a man. I'll teach you how to really work here." Miguel could hardly believe it. His legs almost gave way. He wanted to thank him, but the words wouldn't come out. He just nodded, his eyes filled with tears. The restaurant owner turned and left without saying another word, as if it were just another ordinary day. But for Miguel, that night was the beginning of everything. Instead of being arrested, humiliated, or expelled, he was hired, recognized, rescued. In that quiet kitchen, among plates and pots, the hope he thought he had lost was reborn. Miguel arrived the next day at 8:30 a.m., well before the appointed time. He was wearing the only clean shirt he had and a pair of old sneakers with the soles almost falling off. He was nervous, but determined. When he walked through the front door of the restaurant, the waiters looked at him strangely. No one knew who he was. Until Lorenzo appeared at the counter and, with a simple gesture, motioned for Miguel to follow him. He went straight to the kitchen. "This is where it starts. You've already shown that you know how to wash. Now let's see if you can learn." During the first few days, Miguel cleaned, washed, scrubbed, and ran from one place to another. But now he did everything with pride in broad daylight without having to hide. Lorenzo watched closely, and he noticed something unusual. Miguel not only worked hard, he listened, learned, memorized every detail. In no time, he was helping to organize the kitchen, control inventory, and suggest improvements. It was as if that kitchen was where he had always belonged, and Lorenzo, a man of few smiles, began to smile more. Time passed. A month turned into 3. 3 months turned into a year. Miguel was now known by everyone in the restaurant. He earned the respect of the team, began training new employees, and to everyone's surprise, started learning Italian to communicate better with the head chef. During every break, he would call his mother with a tear in his voice. "I'm fine. Mom, very fine." But it was on a Saturday in spring that the biggest twist happened. The restaurant was full. A line was forming on the sidewalk. Impatient customers, waiters running around, the chef shouting. And suddenly, Lorenzo collapsed. A sudden illness. A heart attack. Right there in the middle of the dining room. Panic set in. But Miguel didn't think twice. He took charge. He organized the team, calmed the customers, coordinated the service, took care of the cash register, and gave orders in the kitchen as if he were the owner himself. And it worked. The night, which could have been a disaster, was saved. The restaurant didn't close. On the contrary, the customers gave a standing ovation when they heard the story. Lorenzo survived. He spent weeks recovering. When he returned, the first thing he did was call Miguel in for a serious talk. "You saved my restaurant," he said in a low voice. "And it wasn't the first time. You showed me more courage and loyalty than many with a degree and an Italian surname." Then he took an envelope out of his pocket. It was a contract. Miguel would be promoted to general manager, with a fixed salary, benefits, and, most unbelievably, a share of the profits. "One day, maybe, this will be yours," Lorenzo said. "You didn't just wash dishes, Miguel, you washed your own destiny," Miguel cried. Not out of sadness, but out of gratitude. He thought of the cold nights, his mother's wrinkled hands, the silence of the shelters, and he looked around. That restaurant was now his home, and it all started with an invisible, hidden, silent act, one that completely changed his life. After everything that had happened, Miguel was no longer just the immigrant who washed dishes in secret. He had become a living symbol that sometimes hope lives in the most unexpected places, and that the courage to keep going, even when no one is watching, can transform lives in ways we can't even imagine. That restaurant, which once seemed like just another setting for him, became the stage for his redemption and rebirth. And the most incredible thing is that it wasn't just Miguel who changed. Lorenzo, the strict and suspicious owner, also learned a valuable lesson about humanity, generosity, and the power of seeing beyond appearances. Deep down, this story is about the invisible strength we all carry within us. How many times have you felt like there was no way out, that the world wasn't giving you a chance? Miguel could have given up. He could have surrendered to fear, discouragement, and social invisibility. But he chose to act, even if it was in the shadows, without recognition. And that seemingly small act was exactly what changed his destiny. Today, Miguel not only has a stable job, but also a new family, made up of his colleagues at the restaurant who have come to admire him not only for his hard work, but also for his integrity and the way he has never lost his humility. He still sends money to his family in his home country, but now he knows that he can build a real future for himself, without fear, without hiding. That young man who washed dishes in secret has become an example to other immigrants who also arrived with nothing but the same flame of hope burning inside them. And what can we learn from all this? That no battle is too small to be ignored, that no act of kindness remains hidden forever, and that dignity can emerge from the most difficult situations when we maintain faith and courage. Miguel reminds us that life can be hard, that the road can be lonely, but that in the end, the right doors open for those who have the courage to knock, even if it's silently in the middle of the night. This story also challenges us to look more closely at the people around us. How many times do we pass by someone invisible, a nobody, and don't imagine the strength, talent, and struggle that exist there? Lorenzo saw in Miguel what many cannot see, a human being with a desire to be better and make a difference. This is a lesson for all of us because we never know what simple act of ours can transform someone's life. If you liked this story, if you felt the weight of Miguel's courage, leave a comment below about what it taught you. And don't forget to share it so that more people can be inspired by this journey of overcoming adversity. After all, real change begins with small gestures and the willingness to believe in others, even when all seems lost. Thank you for watching. If you haven't subscribed yet, take the opportunity to subscribe to the channel and activate the bell, because here we always bring real stories that inspire and transform. See you in the next video. And remember, never underestimate the power you have to change your life. Believe, persist, and make a difference.